Curious as to your perspective on selling today. What makes it uniquely different, and how do you ensure success in today's digital selling world?
Yeah, I think it's actually a little bit harder to sell now because of all the distractions that are out there. But if you can figure out how to create engagement with your customers across different channels, then it actually becomes easier to sell. So I would say, in terms of selling in this new environment, engagement is a really big factor. Yes, you can meet with customers in a regular cadence, but what type of insight or value or even recommendations are you bringing to the customer instead of purely asking them what their problems are? Researching has become a much easier task given all the technologies and tools and information we have. It's putting that into action that actually helps the customer. And I think that's where a lot of organizations are trying to fine tune now, is how do we create action from all the insights that we are gathering. And that really is the future of where I think sales is headed. It's no longer about selling, but it's really leading and kind of strengthening the influence as customers are making their buying decisions, because we as salespeople have less and less to say, but customers have more and more questions for us across different channels.
Everything you said was so quotable. I love how you started off by saying it's actually harder to sell now. And I agree, because there's so much noise. The tools are better, but there's so many of them. So
Mhm.
figuring out how to leverage them, it ups the ante, it ups the responsibility. We've got to be able to responsibly use these tools to research and also to work with buyers differently than we ever had before. Because like you said, they're at a different place. They can
Mhm.
do so much research now, just like you can. They have a process just like we have a process. They can do so much more research now. And we typically come in at like that. I've read the statistics, 56, 57% of the way through the buying process is where the seller actually comes in now. So you've got less run room to actually make an impact and make a difference and develop that relationship. So it makes it all the more important, like you said, to engage with insight and value. It's easy to find and do the research. And we have a lot of these tools that give us the insights or give us buying signals, but are sellers using them, and are they using them responsibly, or are they still just trying to use the old tried and true, I'm going to send an email and just say I'd love to connect and understand your business, or I'm just checking in to make sure that we're still on to try to get another meeting. Are we effectively using these things? And I think that's what makes folks stand apart, is how effectively can you understand the parameters of the new playing field? What are the tools? How can I best leverage them? Do you have any tips, maybe for a seller who has struggled with transitioning to the new environment? What would you tell a seller like that? How could they start doing better today?
Come up with ideas. And the best way to do that is, if you have a customer that's in a specific industry, go research what their competitor is doing, what their complementary companies are doing, and come up with ideas. Because the companies and the folks that are working in companies often don't really have the time for that research. So they're looking for ideas. Every company's looking for ideas. I've started to go away from asking to connect and asking to discuss ideas that really grow a customer's business, and that really does tend to work.
Asking to discuss ideas. I love that. I always ask for feedback or guidance or just a conversation. Like you said, I think far too often we get caught up in putting the cart before the horse, and we're trying to have some step of the buying process or selling process before we've actually developed any type of relationship. It's all about discussions. It's a conversations game. I'm a
Mhm.
firm believer that if I can get conversations, that's what's going to ultimately beget a relationship, and then deals are a byproduct of relationships. We can't be so focused on the deal and trying to sell something. We've got to focus on the fundamentals and the foundation. You pulled out something else very important there. What's the competition doing? I also like to find out, what are my colleagues doing that are doing it better? Who are the best? I want to find the best, and I want to figure out what are they doing? How do I assimilate that into my arsenal? Because that's what's going to make me better. It rarely does it take food off the table for somebody else if I take their best practice and make it part of my own. And I've built an entire career off of that, just finding out what are the greats doing? How can I make that a part of my process? How do I regurgitate their lines that work or their activities that work? Because it's all about people, customer obsession, and process. How do we work that process? And you articulated a lot of reasons why our process has evolved over time. Our process is always going to be evolving because the playing field changes. But if we effectively address that and continue to evolve effectively, we'll be successful. The odds are with us.
I really like what you said here in terms of learning from the best, and I like to call that steal and heal. Steal the best stuff that you find from other people and heal some of your areas of opportunities. And you know, to that point, we have really intelligent and knowledgeable buyers now. So we as sellers have to be intelligent and knowledgeable to meet their demands and their expectations.
Something else that's changed a lot is the focus on culture.
Yes.
And empathy in sales, authenticity. You know, I recently, one of the benefits of starting these types of conversations and, you know, some of the work that I've done in sales is that I've been able to connect with a lot of people. And Larry Levine, so he's built an entire brand off of authentic selling from the heart. And, you know, I have conversations all the time about authentic selling. His name always comes up, but it's something that we need. It's something that we crave. And it's interesting that we find a need to call out authenticity in selling, or even empathy in selling, because it should have been something that was always part of the foundation, because relationships are at the heart. But let's face it, you know, you look back to the old Gordon Gekko-esque or Wolf of Wall Street-esque types of selling methods. It doesn't bleed empathy or culture or authenticity, does it? Curious as to your thoughts, Jawwad, on how we've gotten to this point. Where are we succeeding with infusing these into our process? Where do we still have some work to do? I'm interested in your thoughts there.
I think there's two types of organizational cultures. And there's one that really empowers the individual so then they can go empower the customers and the partners and go impact change. And then there is another one that really looks at data and metrics to the point where it's a bit, I would say, it's a bit burning out. It may be the reason why we're seeing a great resignation, because that does not work in the long run. Yes, you can monitor the metrics that people are measured by, but if you're not empowering them, the people are your greatest assets. If you're not empowering them, they're not going to go empower the customers. So I would say that companies that have figured out the fine line of looking at data, but also understanding the human and emotional and behavioral part of all of this, to equip the sellers and the team members to go make an impact, are the ones that are really succeeding. And I think that's a really important part, because it also brings in authentic selling. If you're trusted by an organization and you're empowered, you're going to be more authentic. You're going to have more authentic days. Yes, we still have to go meet targets. We still have to hit metrics, but you're more encouraged and motivated to do that. If you're being, you know, drilled down to look at numbers every day, over time, you're going to have less and less of those empowerment days, because you're thinking about getting the deal in every single call versus solving the problem. If you solve a problem, the deal will naturally come through. It's a byproduct.
God, I love it. Our teams are people. Our customers are people. Data diagnoses. That's all it does. It is a look back in time to say, okay, this is where the process up to this point has led us. So what decisions might we want to make or make differently because of what the data is telling us? Are there metrics where we're strong? Awesome. Let's celebrate that. Are there metrics where we're not so strong? Okay, fair enough. Why do we think that is? Are these key metrics? Are these important metrics? If we agree that they are, do we want to modify our process in a way that addresses that metric and maybe gives us a higher probability to land that metric? And frankly, that's where I also look for those best practices. If we're not performing in a metric, that's where I'm going to go out and I'm going to find the best. Whether it's on my team, somebody who's performing, let's share that. Let's share that, replicate that success. If it's not on my team and it's somewhere else, I'm going to go out and find that. And I'm going to bring that resource to us so that we can all master that and start flexing that uncomfortable muscle at first, but over time we're going to develop it, and that's what makes people better. You've got to have that foundation of transparency and trust. I need to understand what makes my team tick. I need to understand what makes my customers tick, because ultimately you're trying to influence change. That's it.